I'm saying that loud so they'll come in. I'm so glad you're in the sanctuary. Or as my youngest son, my middle son, Jonathan used to say, the sanctuaria. Because the third seat on my couch is my sanctuaria. When that was where I would be. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming. Did you have enough to eat? Oh my gosh, I did too. I probably shouldn't have eaten anything, but oh well. Anyway, people are still wandering in, so I'll just tell you that I'm so happy that you're here, because this whole thing that you're about to see is all about the work that we do together, all of us, all of you. And one of these days, I have this fantasy that we're all going to get on a big plane and we're all going to go to Africa together. Because I want you to see that everything you're going to see is the fruit of your hands as much as it is anything that I've done or my team has done. And you know, this is Holy Week, and Pastor Joe wants us to have something every single night of Holy Week. Does anybody know what Holy Tuesday is about, what Jesus was doing on Holy Tuesday? We know Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday. A what? Oh, I don't know. See, I don't have that background, so I had to look it up. But one of the things, he did a lot of teaching on that Tuesday that I didn't realize was so close to the crucifixion. But one of the things he did was he taught about, in Matthew 24, about the king who gave talents to his slaves and told him to invest them, right? So to one, he gave 5 talents, which is, 1 talent is worth like $1,000. And then to the other one, he gives 3, and to the last one, he gives 1. And so he says, okay, I'm going away, meaning Jesus going to heaven, but I'm coming back, and I want you to invest what I have given you, this talent, this gift that I've given you. Invest it. So when I come back, I will see what you have done, and I, meaning the king, will reap the reward. So of course he goes, and then he comes back, and the first slave comes up to him and he says, oh, Lord, thank you so much. I invested your 5 talents, and here's a bag with 5 more. And the king says, oh, blessed are you, my good and faithful servant. Come into the kingdom that I've prepared for you. And then I'm paraphrasing, you guys, don't look me up. And anyway, so then he says to the one that he gave 2 talents, the same thing, and he said, oh, Lord, you'll be so proud of me. I took your 2 talents and I made 2 more. And then to the last one, he says, I knew you were going to take whatever it was that I earned, and I knew you were harsh and you were exacting and all that. So I just took your talent and I buried it in the ground. So here, take what you owe. What is yours? And the king gets so angry. Why didn't you just invest it with the bankers? Why didn't you do anything with it? Instead, you just wasted that time. And he goes, I knew you were going to get the money anyway. So he gets kicked out into the place where you'll be gnashing your teeth and you'll be angry and separated from God. The moral of the story is, the reason I love that is one of the things that Jesus taught on the Tuesday that I get to be with you, is that you all are investing your talents in the work that I get the opportunity to go and do. You make it possible, so you are investing the gift that God has given you, and you've entrusted me with that. So I'm going, and you're going to see, and I'm doing what I can do on God's behalf so that he reaps the reward, but the reward is from all of us. So I really want to thank you for that. So I want to take you with me because, I like to rent that plane, but no, that's not going to happen. But I really want you to see where it is that we go. So there'll be a lot of pictures that deal with that. But this is how far it is. Some people don't exactly know where Uganda is, and this is it's called Sub-Saharan Africa. So that's where I first went to, and then we went to Kenya and Tanzania as well. So why this trip and why these places? Why Uganda, why Kenya, and why Tanzania? Well, at the invitation I never go anywhere without an invitation because it's a waste of your money, your talent, if you go somewhere where people don't have any interest in hearing what you want to teach. So I had invitations to go to these places. So I want to tell you about the work that God accomplished through all of us. And then also, we have 4 new groups of girls in Uganda who we're teaching them income-producing skills because the areas where I teach are areas where they practice female genital mutilation. And I know most of you know that, but it is really, really horrific. But God is so amazing because we are making a change, a real change. And so part of the way that we solidify that change is we take girls who would otherwise not have an education, some of them can't even read and write, but we teach them skills that they can earn money. We have sewing groups. We have sweater making groups. They use these machines to go back and forth and knit. We have 3 bakeries where they bake bread, and we have hairdressing programs. And all of our girls who have done hairdressing, except for one little group, they want to start their own group. But everybody else has gone and they have jobs, and they're making their own money. The reason that's so important is because a girl who can make her own money will not be sold into marriage at an early age. So in these countries, marriage is a financial transaction between 2 men. One man is buying a woman, and the other man is selling a woman. The father is selling his daughter. He gets literally a bride price, and the other man is buying her. And that sets up a mindset that I own you now, and you will do whatever I tell you to do. So we help these girls bring money in so that the father's not so anxious to get that bride price. Because as soon as she is sold into her husband's family, his family owns everything she produces, including her children. So if she can make money and bring it home, then it gives her a lot more prestige in her own family, and her father, she doesn't have to get married by the time she's 14 or 16 or something like that. So that's what we're trying to do. We started off in Uganda in a town called Bukwo. Bukwo is at the top of Mount Elgon, and just wanted to show you where it is. And I went with this man is Dr. Larry Young from Emory University, and he is one of the foremost experts on the hormone oxytocin in America, maybe in the entire world. He just won a huge award. I get to go to the award ceremony, yay. But he's an incredible scientist. He's also a really good guy, and he will eat anything, which is very good because food was very hard to find on this particular trip. So we went to Sebe, where we have worked, because that whole entire community used to be a community that practiced female genital mutilation, but since we've been working there, it hardly ever happens. But you know what a vision is like, right? Vision leaks. So you have to keep reinforcing it. So the first conference Larry and I did together was in Bukwo, and it was with teachers and counselors We had never taught teachers before in this great of a number, and they loved it. They just absolutely loved it. So this girl who you see here, I call her a girl because I've known her since she was 19. Her name is Patricia. And Patricia, this is Patricia in 2011, the first year that I went to Uganda. She got up in front of all those men. This was a pastor's conference. She got up, took the microphone, and she said, if the girls in Buko could know what FGM does to their body the way Pastor Patti has just told us, not a single girl would submit to being cut. And she has been with us ever since. So this is 2011, and here we are together. So she's saved so many women's lives because you have made it possible for her to learn what she now knows so that she spreads it in her community. So I just want to thank you for that and let you see. How many years is that? 2011 till now. That's a lot of years. So a lot of the people have been with us all this time. So this is Larry teaching about love and bonding, because oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It's the hormone that you get when you are with someone you love and they look you in the eyes, they touch you gently, they kiss you, they hug you. And the biggest dose of oxytocin anybody gets is through sexual intercourse that leads to, or sexual intimacy that leads to climax. That's the biggest dose of oxytocin. And that's why I got started working with this to begin with, because in my undergraduate degree, I studied about oxytocin, and I knew that if a woman couldn't have pleasure, then she's not going to bond with her husband. But FGM literally cuts out the part of her body that allows her to reach that climax. So they don't feel anything except pain. So that while the husband can still bond to his wife, she has lost the very part of her body that God put in her to help her bond in love and faithfulness to her husband. So we were teaching, as you can see, everybody was really paying attention. They loved what they were learning. The question and answer time was fantastic. They had really thoughtful questions, and that conference just went very, very well. All of them did. So Larry loves to teach using nature. He is a biologist, he's a neurobiologist, and he uses these little creatures, these little guys right here. Those are prairie voles, and they are monogamous. So they make lifelong partners with the one that they mate with, and they take turns raising the children. They help each other raise the children. Like most mammal animals don't have that kind of a bond, although a lot of them do. This is a monkey, that's the baby, and see how their tails are twined together with their baby? It's what they do for love. Isn't that cute? And these are birds. Did you know that 90% of all birds are monogamous? I did not know that until I met Larry. So I won't tell you what all the other things are, but the main point was that it's the same kind of bond that we can get because of the same chemical. Animals have many of the same brain mechanisms that we do. So you can study animals, you can't dig into someone's brain and see what makes them tick. But this has been really important. So one of the things that Larry did an experiment about was when the prairie voles mate, and then they, after they've mated, they only want to be together. And so they test to see, they put electrodes or whatever, and they know that oxytocin is flowing after they've mated, and so they test it by putting a stranger, this is a stranger prairie vole, and this is the female, and this is the male. Now, last night, the female and the male mated. So they are a couple, basically. And then this one is a strange one. In most animals, the one that's more attractive is the novel partner, the potential partner, but not with these little prairie voles. So I'm hoping I can make this go. Please work. Oh, darn. It's not going to work. Oh, yes, it is. Okay. So, remember the one in the middle is the male. Now he's going to go over and see this novel new female. And he smells her. Oh, I don't like the way you smell. You're not my wife. Girlfriend. Whatever. And so then he goes back and he sees, and he grooms her, and he licks her, and he cuddles her, and because this is his mate. So that's oxytocin at work. Oxytocin doing the thing that it's supposed to do. So Larry talks about the science of oxytocin, and I marry it with Scripture, because what we talk about is the biblical and biological views of love and bonding. And so the Bible describes how God creates marriages, spiritually, emotionally, and biologically. And I take this verse, the Genesis 2:24. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. The man and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. And I talk about this as like, this is a description of oxytocin doing its job in marriage. Because when you, God gives us these verbs that teach us that this is, God is creating a verse that shows us how oxytocin works, basically. So if you leave your father and mother, and when I'm there, I talk about that includes ancestors, because the word is the same. You leave your father and mother, and then you cling to your wife. And it's such a rich word. It doesn't mean just sex, but clinging to your wife means loving her, being loyal, being affectionate, being true, being faithful. So that's what the word cling means. So if you leave your parents behind, it gives you a fresh start. And you leave the ways of your ancestors, like FGM, female genital mutilation, then you can start a fresh start with your wife. And then the two of you cling together, and then the fourth word is to be. Then you become one. You become one flesh. So it's a picture that God's saying, if you do this and you do this, this will be the result. Isn't that cool? So that clinging is what creates the bond that oxytocin provides. So we finished our conference, and everybody, we always like to get group pictures. I think that's Larry's favorite thing. So we all got a group picture, and then we took off for Kenya. And we drove all the way from Uganda to Kenya because it just made more sense. And I was really nervous because that meant that the trip was going to be really, really long with our driver, and we have to pay for his food and his accommodations. We have to pay his salary, and we have to pay for the car. That's a lot of money, and I didn't have enough. And so you might not know this, but the mission board gave me half of the amount that we needed to keep Ivan. That's Ivan, our driver. He's the most amazing man in the world. He's kept me alive more times than I can describe. So, I have some water right here. Yes, I do. Yeah, it's like I have this thing. Yeah. Thank you, though, Elizabeth. You're awesome. So this is in that car. We would have been sitting there for many, many hours, just like the big truck with the orange. And sometimes it's raining and the roads are all clay, so it's just slippery, slip and slide. And there's always animals. Animals. And some animals are on the road, but not the way you would expect. And then there are people who have to travel like this. This is one of the most frequently used means of transportation. People just climb on a truck, they pay a couple of shillings, and they get to go where they're going. So I am just so grateful to you that we were safe the whole entire time. And if it hadn't been for Brewster Baptist Church, we would not have been able to have that. It's a big expense, but Larry kept saying, it's the price of business. It's the price of business. And I'm like, no, it's the price of ministry. And he's, okay. So I just wanted to show you where we went. So we started in Uganda, in Kampala. We went to Bukwo. We spent the night in Nakuru, Kenya. Then we went to Meru. We had our next conference in Meru. Then we went to Nairobi. And after that, we flew to Tanzania. So I just want you to see where I am, because you're with me. You are so with me when we go there. And then, after Ivan took us to the airport to fly to Tanzania on January 28th, he had to drive 12 more hours in the car back to Kampala. So he deserves his pay. A workman is due his pay, right? That's scripture. So just one more thank you. We had roads like that. They were building a new road to go up to Bukwo, and the dust was unbelievable. And you would have trees growing in your lungs after a while if you didn't have a car like this that was air conditioned with good filter system and all that. So I'm just saying thank you a million times. So then we go off to Meru. And when we go to Meru, when we go to a new place, we start by asking people to teach us. You don't want to come in like people who know, we know something better than you. We humbly go in. I understand that this is a practice that people treasure, and I acknowledge that, and I say, would you teach us why FGM is so valuable to your community? So we divide people up into groups, and we give them 3 questions. Why is FGM valuable for girls and women, for boys and men, and for the community and marriages? So the first time we did this, the bishop said, they're not going to tell you that. But they loved it. They loved being asked. They loved knowing that I could acknowledge that this was something important to them and that I didn't just come in and tell them what to do. So they all sit down and they talked in their groups, and then they report. So each group, we had 6 groups in Meru, and they answered all of the questions, 3 questions with 5 answers each. And then they would sit there and report out. And I'm glad Larry took that picture, because I can't see if you can see my face. I'm trying very hard not to cry, because that man, when he was giving his report, he said that one of the reasons why FGM is so important is because it makes a girl pure. And I said, can you tell me, what do you mean by pure? And he turned around and looked at me and he said, a girl who's not cut is disgusting. And I just was like, you can't react, but I was choking back the tears for somebody to think that a girl who has a part of her body that the Lord God put in her, is disgusting. Anyway, this is what we deal with, okay? When Larry's teaching, he talks about the healing power of love, because oxytocin, when you are acting like that, hugging each other, touching, kissing, all of those wonderful things that release oxytocin, when you're in a committed relationship, when both, if your wife is happy and your husband is happy, then your health goes up. Your mental health is better. Your immune function is better. Cancer progression goes down, and your cardiovascular disease goes down. So when you are in a committed relationship, it keeps you healthier. It keeps you healthier longer. So Larry talks about how important it is to be in this committed, loving relationship. But in both Meru and when we got to Tanzania, the men there did not believe it was right to love their wives. They thought that, I asked one of the men in Meru, I said, so why do you think it's wrong to love your wife? And he said, because. How can you love something that you own? And he says, if a man loves his wife, it's because she's put herbs in his tea, and she's bewitched him. And so Larry being there and talking about this, and that conference was 100% clergy and their wives. Clergy and their wives only in that conference. So when Larry is talking about this, then they see, well, maybe, there is a good reason to love your wife. And so then I come in with the biblical message, and you know how in Genesis 2 it says that God created the woman to be the helper to the man? Well, that word helper doesn't mean a subordinate. It means someone powerful like God. But the cool thing is the word right after that. The Hebrew word is azer for helper. But the other word is kenegdo. And kenegdo is a compound word, and it means someone who, I put the wrong slide. Okay, this part, that is a preposition, and it means like or equal to. It's ka. And neged, the middle part, means that the person, that she's face to face with her husband. Face to face, not behind, not below, and not out of sight. God said that he created the woman to be a helper who is face to face with him. And so I always do this, and Larry really likes this. I ask for a couple to come up. And first I say, okay, what is it like in your community? And they say, oh, he walks ahead and I walk behind. And I say, okay, I see that. But what would happen if you stood face to face with each other? And I ask everybody in the audience, I make them stand face to face with each other. And in all of these countries, women are not allowed to look their husbands in the eyes because it's arrogant. And but I say, God said that you're to be face to face. So what can you do when you're face to face that you can't do when the wife is behind you? And they start giggling like little girls, Oh, well, you can have a conversation. Yes, what else? You can look in each other's eyes, because Larry has already told them, gazing into each other's eyes releases oxytocin. So they start with those easy ones, right? And then they go, oh, okay, you could hold hands, you could hug, you could kiss. And then they're all like going crazy when we get to yes, and you can also make love. And then Larry tells them that human beings are the only creatures on the planet who have the ability to make love face to face. Now, he is a scientist. He says that, he's not coming as a faith leader. And when he saw that God intends the husband and wife to be face to face, it made him go, because this is what humans are capable of doing. All other animals' anatomical body parts can only allow the male to mount the female from behind. Only humans can make love face to face. Isn't that cool? So I'm teaching them the Bible stuff You know, the man will leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and they will become one flesh, and they're supposed to be face to face, and there's all these wonderful things you can do face to face, and they all create oxytocin. So I know this is not in Africa, but my baby boy got married. And he's not my baby, he's the oldest. But see, that's Debbie, that's Stephen. They just got married, so they're walking away from me. They're leaving their moms and dads. And then look how he's looking in her eyes in that second picture. Isn't that cute? Isn't that sweet? And then he can't help but kiss, just like I got them to do in the conference. And then again, isn't he a happy boy? So that's the way it's supposed to be, walking away from your parents, not to dishonor them, but to start your own thing, because you can only create oxytocin when you are a unit in yourself. So when we were in Meru, and every place that we went, people really, really paid attention. And they even, this guy's got his iPad, he's recording Larry. And when we started that conference, I had to write to Nancy Smith. I had heard that there were some people coming to this conference who were quite upset that I was coming, this white woman, to talk to them about their precious FGM. And so I was nervous about it. So the Women's Bible Study and the missions team prayed for me. And by the end, they all wanted to get in pictures with us. I mean, we tried to do one group picture, and it was just too big. We couldn't do it. So then somebody had the brilliant idea, let's take pictures with Patti and Larry from the groups that we first started with, you know, where they told me that the girl is disgusting if she's not cut. So we knew that things were going really well. And there's the bishop and his wife and me and Larry. And I just wanted you to see this. We got this report just really recently, and it says that they had a good time. They felt, it says, this in the very beginning, the delegates felt that the training on biblical and biological views of love and bonding was the most important training they had ever had. The lessons learned are squarely applicable to the Meru community where we serve. And then he goes on to say other really wonderful things. So did you feel that? We did that, guys. We did that. And it's just so exciting to see people completely morph from the way they were the first night to the way they were the last morning. So then we went off to St. Paul's University in Limuru. I'm taking my watch off because you know how I am with time. And I should put it where I could really, really see it. Did that work? Yeah. Okay. And I'll just be real quick about this. This conference targeted clergy and church leaders, chaplains, tutors, and lecturers, psychologists, and medics. And we had a conference there in 2022, but this was an entirely different group of people. So the first day of the conference, we said, how many of you have heard Larry and I speak before? And I think there were 160-something people, and only 2 of them had heard us speak before. And one of them was a coordinator for the conference. So we're spreading this message, and it's catching on, and people keep asking us to come back. So this is the bishop, the man on the right, on your right, is Bishop Moses of Mbedi. Say that, Mbedi. Very good, thank you very much. And he came to the conference at St. Paul's, which was after the one in Meru. And he came to me and he said, now, Madame, Reverend Patti, why did you not invite Mbedi to come to that conference? And I said, I don't understand. And he said, our district is very close to theirs, and we have FGM much, much worse. He says, you must come next year because we need this message. And so Larry and I are planning, God willing, to go back and to go to Mbedi. I got a text message from Bishop Moses recently, and he said, we are planning, so come. So there were lots and lots of 162 participants, and they all like to get in the pictures and everything. This next picture is so cute. So this couple, they came on the last day, and after hearing all about what oxytocin does and love and bonding and all that, they decided to wear the same fabric. Isn't that cute? To show us that they got the message. I just thought that was adorable. So then we went off to Mugumu, Tanzania, or Tanzania, as is the correct way to say it. So here's where we were in Nairobi, Kenya, and this is Tanzania, and we flew from there to Kilimanjaro Airport. Now, when we got to Kilimanjaro Airport, our conference wasn't going to start for a few days because the bishop was on leave. And I don't do anything without the bishop there. You need to have your bishop there if you've been invited by the bishop when you're teaching this kind of stuff. So we had a few days to kill, and I just wanted to rest, but Larry wanted to see animals. He's a biologist, remember? So we went to the Serengeti, and we saw Mount Kilimanjaro. Well, from a distance, we saw Mount Kilimanjaro. We saw every kind of animal you can possibly think of. Lions, tigers, zebras, but no bears, Look at that giraffe. He was looking right in my window. I thought he was going to take the barrettes out of my hair or something. I didn't know what he was doing. Anyway, so you did not have to pay for that. Thank you very much. We did that on our own. And this is the most amazing and wonderful Bishop George Okuth. He is amazing. We had such a good time. I wrote to him. He was a connection from someone else, and he didn't write me back for a couple of days, and I was like, oh, he probably just doesn't want me to come. And I said, did I tell you that this is not going to cost you anything, that we've raised the funds for this? Still, he's kind of quiet. And then he got in contact with the person who connected me to him, and she said, George, you pursue this. And so on that first day of the conference there, when we were having a break, he turned to me and he said, do you know what I thought when I got your email? And I said, no, what? And he said, I thought to myself, this is too good to be true. And he said, when something's too good to be true, it's usually too good to be true. He says, but now I see this is for real. He said, they have been fighting FGM for a very long time, using all the same tools everybody else uses that don't work. Because if you are a man and you don't believe that a woman has any rights, you're not going to care that this is a violation of a woman's rights as a human being. So I have to teach them, because this is all clergy. Most of the time, we're with clergy. And even the ones that are not clergy, they're still Christians, because it's a very Christian place. So, but not so much in Tanzania, there's all kinds there. But anyway, we were telling them that this is something that if you can just embrace this, if you can just be willing to listen. But first, again, we want to listen to you. And so we did the thing with the groups again. And see this table right here, I'm telling you, those are some scary looking men in close up. When I first came in, I was wondering, who are those men? And I asked the bishop, and I said, because they were very prominently sitting in front of everybody else. And he said, oh, those are the culture keepers. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, these are the men who go to any kind of a thing like this, and they are very intent on keeping FGM intact. And the bishop is very smart. He invited them to come. And so they came invited so that they didn't have to be quite so intimidating. But, I mean, they were still a little intimidating. But they were great. They kind of mingled in with everybody else after a while. And they also liked it that we were asking them to teach us first. So those are the questions in Swahili. They translated our questions about why is FGM important for girls and boys and that. So we did there at that meeting. It was really intense because Tanzania has the worst treatment of women that I've ever heard about. After this night where people were, when they gave their reports, you would not believe some of the things that they said. And I do have a list, but because this is going on YouTube and somebody else might see it who would be shocked, I don't want to tell you exactly what they said, but I will say that a woman came up to me, two women came up to me at different times in the break, and one woman told me that just last week her friend's husband, had cut off her ear. And I said, is he in jail now? And she said, no, men do this with impunity. And I was like, why did he cut off her ear? And she said, because he said, well, if you're not going to listen to me, then you don't need that ear, do you? And then another woman heard her saying that, and she came running up to me, and she said, yeah, my sister lost her foot. Her husband cut off her foot. And I said, is he in jail? No, he's not. And I said, why did he cut off her foot? He says, because she couldn't keep up with him fast enough. She was carrying she had the baby on the back, the hoe on the shoulder, and she couldn't keep up with him. And so he said, well, you must not need that foot. And he cut off her foot. So we have been asked to come back, and we will, God willing. But this is a really big challenge. However, by the end of that conference, it was all, again, clergy. There were 92 people at it, all clergy and spouses. By the end of the conference, we did have some converts. There were a few who just couldn't fathom loving their wives. It just didn't make any sense to them. So I said, but would you just go home and pray about it? But there were others who were like really into it, and all the women loved the idea. Yeah. So at this place in Tanzania where the conference was, it was a place called Mugumu. They have a safe house. This is Bishop George. He's such a great guy. All of those children, they're all girls except for one little brother, are girls who ran away from home because they did not want to have to go through FGM. And they ran away from home, and somehow they got to this place, this safe house. And the stories of what they were escaping from their own parents is just, this girl right here with the Levi shirt on, she told us her story that her mother wanted her to be cut because the father had gone, and the mother wanted money. So they will sell their daughter, but she had to be cut because you get a higher bride price for a girl who's cut than one whose body is intact. And she escaped. And then they tried to get her to go back home, but the mother beat and abused her. So she came running back here. So when I left there, I left them with a little money, and then since I've come home, Life Together has given them more money. What they're doing there is phenomenal. These girls, if they escape, or if they can escape and come to a place where they can get schooling and people will take care of them. Look how little this little girl right here, she's pregnant. She's 13 years old and she's pregnant. I mean, it's just horrific. So thank you for letting us do all of this. Larry went back to the United States after we left Tanzania, and I went back to Uganda because I wanted to meet the girls in our 4 new groups. But we started at Agape School. We support this school in central Uganda as a kind of a help to Granville Federated Church in Granville, Massachusetts. So we're working together to feed all of those children with just $300 a month. So the food lasts about 2 weeks, but they spread it way, way out. They have just beans and just poshu, which is corn flour mixed with water. So we went there. I did a teaching there for the pastors in that area. It was really great. Then we're starting a new literacy program, and some of you have donated to that. We were able to get a generator so that we can run 2 laptops. I had enough money to buy a generator and 2 laptops. This is a pilot program. I've never done this before, but I found software that teaches how to read and another software that teaches how to type. So I loaded those on to the laptops before I went to Uganda, and it's doing great. And the group that I chose to start this is the group from Riwo. Those girls are amazing. They got three sewing machines from all of you. You paid for these sewing machines, and they got 3 sewing machines and 4 sweater making machines on November 1st, 2021. By Christmas, they had the most beautiful outfits. They were sewing like crazy. They were making all kinds of creative sweaters. They were doing all kinds of things. So I knew that those were the most motivated girls that we've had. And Riwo is in the word, those pictures where the river was running through the street in the beginning? That's how you get to Riwo. So these girls are so motivated, and they've never had a project like this. No one has ever thought that they were capable of learning or doing anything other than just get cut, get married, have babies, take care of the husband, and take care of the home. That's all they thought they could do. And now, look at those cute clothes. They made all of those clothes. I'm so proud of them. So I thought, if those girls can do that, maybe they could learn to use a computer. Now, there's no electricity in Riwo yet. In fact, on most of the mountain, there's no electricity, but it's coming. So that's why I wanted them to have a generator, because if they learn to type, learn to use a computer, then that place is going to explode when electricity gets there, because it's right on the border with Kenya, and business will just explode. And so they'll probably build a clinic. I want our girls to be the ones to get the good jobs. So if they can read and write and they know how to use a computer, then they will be golden. So these are our mentors. This is the intrepid Lydia, and that's Nesta, and then Judith. And here's Moses. He taught the girls how to sew, and Phyllis, who taught the girls how to use the sweater making machine. And here, that's Lydia. This is the first day we got her the laptops, and she's trying to, I said, you have to put your ASDF:LKJ. You have to keep your fingers on the home keys. And she's like, and she's trying to do it like this, but she's never seen a computer before. So she's doing really, really well. So she has to learn it before she can teach the girls. But there's laptop 1 and laptop 2. So it's really doing great. And they're so excited about it that while I was in Uganda, I got enough money to buy 1 more laptop, and now we've started another group in a place called Terampoi. Now this is Terampoi, and these are our Terampoi girls. We all came together, and they have and Terampoi and Quosier. And so look at these gorgeous clothes. That they made all of those clothes themselves. Look at those girls. But I want to tell you about, they made those, right? Isn't that cool? It's amazing. Okay, so this this girl here is Joan. I asked them when I first got there, can you tell me what you were doing before you started this group, and has there been any change in your life since then? And Joan jumped right up. And she said, when she learned in November that they were going to start this group, she went and asked her father if he would allow her to join it. And he said yes. And as soon as she started, he died. And then last February, after she'd been through the program, her mother also died, leaving her with 4 little sisters to take care of. But she said right before her mother died, she started making a little business of mending people's clothes. And so now she came up with the idea of making the sleeves match the skirt. And so she's very creative. Isn't that creative? So now Joan is taking care of her 4 little sisters on her own. And then this other girl, whose name I didn't get. Sometimes the names are so different, I can't quite understand, and I didn't write it down. But she lived with her mother, she said, until she was 10 years old, and then her mother left. And she ended up living with her grandmother, who very quickly sold her to an older man when she was 16 years old. So she now is 18 years old, and she's 19 years old, and she has 2 children already. And when she heard that this project was going to start, she hoped and prayed. She registered for it. She hoped and prayed when they released the list of names. She was hoping she was going to be on the list, but her name wasn't there. But she said she heard there were only 2 machines. That was part of the reason. I only had enough money to buy 2 machines. And the Bosco, the man who is running the project, said to me, can you please get more machines? So many girls want to do this. And I said, look, you ask the girls to pray, and I'll pray, and maybe we'll be able to get some machines. We were able to get 4 more machines. So they started this other group, and she said when she heard that I had asked for prayer, she prayed every single night. She prayed every day. And when the list came out, her name was on the list. I have chills. I'm just thinking about it. She was so excited. So now she knows how to sew. Her husband allows her to learn this, and their relationship has gotten a little better because she's bringing money into the house now. And she was just so happy. There's a girl I want to tell you about, and this next picture is a little shocking, so just look away if you don't want to see it. Her name is Karen, and she was badly burned when she was very young, and she won't tell anybody what happened, but she lives alone, no mom and dad. She doesn't know how old she is because her parents were not part of her life, and she has this is a part of a hand. It's like this. The other part, this hand had to be amputated because it was so badly burned. Her face is like melted. She can't close her mouth. She can't hold her head up because the skin is burned down to her chest. Her eyes are burned open and swollen, so she has to put something over her eyes to be able to sleep. But she's the sweetest young lady. We're guessing that she may be like 19 or 20. And she is in Bosco's church. Bosco is our accountant and a wonderful man. And she asked if there was a way that we could get sweater making machines for her because it's, the thing goes like this. So she thinks she might be able to strap it on her hand if she can do a lot of things with her teeth, but she can't close her mouth completely, so she uses her tongue. I don't know. Anyway, she thought maybe she could use a sweater making machine. So as soon as I got home, I checked our finances, and we had enough to buy 2 sweater making machines. They're 700,000 shillings, which is about $400, $300. So we bought 2 sweater making machines. There they are. They're all wrapped up, and a ton of yarn. A ton of yarn. So they are working now to try to figure out how to help Karen. This is the first time she's had friends because everybody's been so afraid of her. But she comes to church at Bosco's church, and he takes care of her. So this group at Terampoi, they are so great. They made me a dress. And I would have worn it tonight, but it needs a little adjusting, and I don't know if you can see these sleeves, how they point up like that. That's because it is a very special dress, one that you would wear to weddings and, that kind of thing. So they made me one of those dresses, and they did a pretty good job. So here are all the Terampoi girls. This is the trainer, and he's the nicest man you would ever want to meet. He loves those girls like they're his daughters. And the girls all say, he'll give us thread if we run out. He knows how to fix the machines. He doesn't charge us, and he's taught us so many things. So look, those are your Terampoi girls. Yeah, all of these girls. This one is the one who made this dress. And that's Ben Fred. He's on our team. So it's just really great. Now the last group I'll tell you about. Can I go 2 more minutes? 3 more minutes? Okay. The last group was in Nyenye. I'm not even going to ask you to say that one. Nyenye. Nyenye, these girls, we had a training, so they came to Kampala, and the girls came, a lot of them are married because they get married 14, 15, and so they came with their husbands, and their husbands were all sitting over here, and the women were all sitting over here. I said, you get together, the whole thing, So I did the training, and by the end, they were looking in each other's eyes and hugging and dancing and singing and having a blast. So this is the church where their sewing center is right now. We need to rent them a place that is a little bit closer to where people might be. But right now, that's where they are. And when they came home from that training, they were so excited. They told all their friends, and now all their friends want to be a part of it. This young lady's name is Winnie, and she was at that training that you just saw the picture of. And Delmark is my director of operations, and when Delmark was there a couple of weeks ago, she came to him and she said, I was so eager, I was craving to be cut because she's not married yet and she's already 18. And she thinks that's so old. So she was craving to be cut. And she said, until Reverend Patti told us what that part is for and how it would not help us and it wouldn't turn me into a woman or a good wife. So she started crying because she was this close to being cut until I got there. So you guys, we're doing good work. So that's all the girls in Nyenye. And then I just want to end with this beautiful picture of these little children. This is in Terampoi. We were driving away, and they just started chasing after me and just saying, waving and blowing me kisses, and I was blowing them kisses. This is why we're doing this. All of those little girls, you can't tell because of their hair, but if she's wearing a skirt, she's a girl. Okay? That's how you know. But we're doing this for them. I don't want those girls to grow up and have to have their bodies sliced and diced because some man thinks he doesn't want to have to deal with her if she wants to have joy. So that's such a small little part, but you know how I am. I love the details. So I just want to thank you so, 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 so much. It was an amazing trip, and hopefully we'll be going back next year. Thank you. It is now 7 minutes after 8, but if anybody wants to stay and ask questions, if you have any questions? Any questions? Any answers? Yeah. Yes, Nina. No, because God is good. I have Ivan, our driver. He is now our director of operations. So he lives in Kampala, the big city, and I can call him today and say to him, tomorrow, will you go and get these fabrics and get this wool and all that kind of stuff? He puts it on a taxi and sends it wherever it needs to go. It's amazing how mobile these kinds of things are. So they can get anything. It doesn't have to come from here, which is great because we add to the economy there. Solar is hard because it's not quite the quality that it maybe run a laptop, but not. We have solar at the bakeries, just for light though. Um, to have the kind of solar that would really run something good, it would be thousands of dollars, and a generator is about $800. And generators are portable. Solar panels, if you don't glue them to the roof of something, then they get stolen, and you can lock away a generator. But that's going to come. Yes, Nancy. It's ridiculous right now. It was $6 a liter when I was there this last time. Not every place, but it cost us $250 to fill up the Land Cruiser because it takes 93 liters. So, but so fuel is an issue. But we've bought solar panels before, and they've all gotten stolen, or they break very easily, unless you buy like the really, really, really good ones. But they have to be put in a permanent place. Yes, Nina. I have interpreters. Most of the girls don't speak any English. They'll try a word here and there, but I always speak with interpreters. I had some pictures with interpreters, but it was already getting too long. Did you say something else, Nina? But it's good. The interpreters are great, especially if they're from my own team. They know what I'm trying to say. So I'll say something, and then they start preaching. So and especially if I'm with Delmark, because he's a Sabine chief. So when he translates for me, it's as if his authority is what's saying what I've just said. So it's really great. Anybody else? Yes. They're far from Dar es Salaam, but so Tanzania is like this, right? Dar es Salaam is way down here, and we were up by Lake Victoria, closer to Kenya. And if you could swim across Lake Victoria, you would be in Uganda. So we were up in the northeast because that's where FGM is being practiced. It's not being practiced in Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam is almost 50-50 Muslim and other religions. Only about 30% of the people in we did go to Dar es Salaam because we had to fly out from there. Anybody else? Yes. Yes, last year when Larry Young came with me, we spoke mostly to medical professionals and healthcare professionals, and also is going to be doing a TV program. Back long time ago, I've been doing this for 20 years now. My very first year, I helped a young woman go through nursing school. Now, she's married to a gynecologist. She is a neonatal nurse, and they have built 3 hospitals because they came here and saw what is possible, and they went back and built these hospitals. Now, while Larry and I were there this time, they told us about a new television channel it's all health all the time. So they're setting up right now as we speak a Zoom meeting where he will be talking about health issues about FGM and so forth. And it will be on loop on TV all the time. Of course, in the areas, it'll just be in Uganda, and there are few areas where FGM is being practiced that they have TV or electricity, but at least some people will be learning, and we're just going to keep going and going and going. Anybody else? Yes. Yes. I was on a radio program when I first started doing FGM in 2011, and it became their #1 requested radio program. And the radio station made a lot of money off of it because people would call and ask for a copy of it. So we like to do that. Larry was on a different health program. They have a Sunday night thing called Focus on Health, and he did that. You could even probably Google it and find him in Uganda. That was when we were doing the medical professionals program. Anybody else? Thank you, everybody, for coming and eating and bringing food. Thank you but most of all, thank you for your support, because none of this would happen without you. You know that, right? Okay, and it's our work. Okay, thank you. We should sing a song or something, but you don't want me to do that, that's for sure.